Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and Txne doing a Malefic deck profile. So I'm really excited with this one because this deck actually just got an insane support with the new Malefic Dragon. This card is insane because basically what this card does is you just instantly get the special summon out and then follow it out with a Paradox Dragon to get 8k damage on board, which is really good. So I'm really excited to show you guys this deck. It's been a little while since I updated this deck, ever since I think the original Malefic support came out with Dual Overload is when it came out. So anyways guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below because we have some awesome rewards, you guys, like getting your name in the description for every single video, getting a signed card sent to the mail, or even getting requested deck profile with test hands just like this deck profile. So without further ado, let's get straight on into it. So I'm really excited for this deck. It's really insane, and let's get straight on in. So we're going to be playing 3 copies of the new Malefic Peregrine Dragon. This card is really good. It's probably the best Malefic that they've ever released. I'm definitely going to be doing test hands just strictly because of this card. But this card cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 1 Malefic monster from your extra deck, which is this big boy, which is the only one that we have in the extra deck. And that's not on the field. And if Malefic World is not on the field, you destroy this card. And then once per turn, you can send a Malefic card from your deck to the graveyard to return 1 of your banished level 8 Synchro monsters to the extra deck. Then you can special summon that monster from your extra deck. Also, you can only attack with Malefic monsters this turn. That's fine. All we attack was with Malefic monsters anyway. So basically, you special summon this, return this to the extra deck, and then immediately special summon it back out. Like, I mean, it's that easy. And you have to have Malefic World on your side of the field. That's super easy to do. But you essentially get both of these big boys on the field and be able to attack your opponent for 8k. So, really good card. We then play 3 copies of Malefic Cyber End Dragon. Essentially, you just banish a Cyber End Dragon from your extra deck to be able to special summon this. The other effects don't really matter, but you have to keep in mind that there can only be 1 face-up Malefic monster on the field at a time, as long as you don't have Malefic territory on the field. So you need to get to Malefic territory as quickly as possible, because it makes it so you can have, basically it turns those effects off, or you can have multiple Malefic monsters on your side of the field. And it also has the ability that other monsters you control cannot declare an attack. And if there's no face-up field spell, you destroy this card. It doesn't turn off the destroying itself if you don't have a field spell, but it does turn off the effect of there can only be 1 face-up Malefic monster with the same name on the field. And then during the battle phase, you negate the effects of all face-up Malefic monsters on the field as well. So it just negates their effects, period, which is really good during the battle phase. Then we play 3 copies of Malefic Stardust Dragon. Malefic Stardust Dragon is still insanely good because what this card does is it protects your Malefic field spell. It protects if there's a field spell on your side of the field. It just immediately protects it, which is super good to be able to have that built-in protection with the deck being so focused around the protection of your field spells and having your field spell on the field. It also has the ability that you have to banish a Stardust from your extra deck to be able to special summon it, which is why we play 2 Stardust and 2 copies of Malefic Cyber in the extra deck, so you can just banish them to get these cards out on your side of the field. We play a single copy of Malefic Blue Eyes White Dragon. This card is really good as well. It's basically just a 3k beat stick, and it's really easy to summon as well. You have to banish a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to special summon this card, which is really good, but it does blow itself up if you don't have a field spell, which all of them pretty much share that ability. And then to follow it up, we have a Blue Eyes White Dragon to go along with it, because it helps out. You have to have the Blue Eyes White Dragon in order to send from deck to graveyard, but it also thins the deck by sending that Blue Eyes from deck to graveyard. We then play 3 copies of Malefic Parallel Gear. Oh, also, this engine is kind of like a trade-in engine, which is really cool. We play 3 copies of Malefic Parallel Gear. Parallel Gear lets you fusion summon, or not fusion summon, but synchro summon by using another Malefic monster in your hand. So if you want to go into your Paradox Dragon normally, which you probably won't, because you're going to use the big new monster. If you're going to summon it, you can normal summon this card out and then use the Stardust or your Malefic Blue Eyes in your hand to be able to immediately synchro summon for your copy of Paradox Dragon, which is pretty cool. We play 3 copies of Malefic Paradox Gear. Malefic Paradox Gear is if you control a face-up field spell, you can tribute this card to special summon a Malefic Parallel Gear from your deck, and then add a Malefic monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. And if a Malefic monster would be banished, would banish a monster to special summon itself, then you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, which is pretty good to be able to just banish. If you do draw into the Blue Eyes, your Blue Eyes Malefic is not dead, because you can still use it by banishing the Paradox Gear from your graveyard, which is kind of nice. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom, which is the last 3 monsters in the main deck. I mean, you really don't need that many monsters outside your Malefic monsters. I did drop Rainbow Dragon. I don't feel like you need it quite as much anymore. With the new Malefic monster in the main deck. I mean, it's just insanely good compared to what that is. I mean, and it was good, but it's not this good. I mean, this is really good for the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. And can we take a moment to applaud Konami? This card got announced like 3 months ago, and already we have it. Maybe 6 tops, and we already have this card in the TCG. Like, that was quick for what they normally do. Like, usually we have to wait 3 or 4 years, and we get this card in the next set. Like, that was... Good job, Konami. Good job. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go into the spells. So for the spells, we're playing 3 copies of Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave is really, really good in this deck because you're using a lot of cards that are searching from the deck, and you really need that ability to get into the deck and search, because this deck is all about the way that I built it. There is control variants of this deck. Mine is an OTK build because I think that's the correct way to play Malefics. I think some people like the control builds where you play a lot of cards that just negate card effects and floodgates and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that build style. I like to be able to search the deck, get in my cards, and go after my opponent for 12k damage. I mean, that's just me. I love those kind of decks. So, Call by the Grave stops our opponent from stopping us from searching, which is super nice. 1 copy of Malefic Divide. Also, if you want to play Forbidden Droplets in this place, you can, but I think Call by the Grave is going to be the budget option, and I'm probably going to tell you guys that in just about every single deck profile. You can change Call by the Grave out for Forbidden Droplets if you feel like you need to. We then play 1 copy of Malefic Divide. Malefic Divide lets you target a Malefic monster in your graveyard and special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. But its effects are negated, and you banish it during the end phase. So usually if you're going to do this, you're going to go in for a link play, or not link play, but a Synchro, or a XYZ. I'm jumping all over that one. But you're going to go in for an XYZ play to go in for like your Juggernaut Libby, or go in for a copy of Dingirsu or something like that. One of your rank 8s. Like, you have plays, but you really want to use this as kind of like a Monster Reborn. We played 2 copies of Malefic Selector. I bumped this card up from 1 to 2 because it's more live now that you're discarding and sending from deck to graveyard with your new Malefic monster. Like, this card is really good to send stuff to graveyard and thin the deck a little bit so you can get to exactly what you need. But this lets you banish 2 Malefic cards from your deck, or from your graveyard, to add 2 Malefic cards from your deck to your hand with different names than the card, except for Malefic Selector, which is really good to be able to search. That's why I play this card at 2 now, is because it's a lot easier and it's a lot more live. We play 3 copies of Malefic World. Malefic World is insanely good in the way the deck even functions, so you have to get to this card as quickly as possible. When this card is face up on the field, you can activate this effect. Instead of conducting your normal draw phase, you pick 3 Malefic cards in your deck, and have your opponent randomly pick one of them, and you add it to your hand, which is really cool. It's essentially like Tin Can, but in a field spell zone. Like, this is the original Tin Can, which is really cool. We play 3 copies of Malefic Territory. Malefic Territory is probably the best spell in the entire deck. This card makes the deck really viable and work, because before it was really bricky and you can only summon 1 Malefic monster to your side of the field, and it just didn't work. And so you just teched in Malefic Cyber End into like Gravekeepers. And so it just didn't work. And so now with Malefic Territory, it really does work. Because when this card is activated, you get to activate a Malefic World directly from deck. So it's essentially like you're playing 6 copies of this card, which is really good odds to get it to your hand. And then when this card is in the field spell zone, while that card is in the field spell zone, neither player can target a card in the field spell zone with card effects and the Malefic monsters effects, and there can only be 1 face-up Malefic monster on the field, becomes there can only be 1 face-up Malefic monster on the field with the same name. And then during the battle phase, you negate the effects of all Malefic monsters where they can all attack, which is really good. We then play 3 copies. That was the biggest. We messed up, and we're going to fix the crazy restrictions that we put on Malefics, because they were afraid that they were too big for what the game was, and they were right at the time, but they sucked because they broke them, and they just couldn't work because they were so bad. And then they released Territory, and it was like, okay, now they're balanced, and they didn't want to have to go back and errata the entire archetype, which is nice. We then play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness is really good because it lets you basically cycle through the deck to get into your copies of Malefic World and Malefic Territory as quickly as possible. We then play 3 copies of Trade-In. The Trade-Ins are super nice as well because they, again, let you get into your copies of Malefic Territory as quickly as possible and your Malefic World. I mean, if you don't get your copy of Malefic Territory, you're still okay, but it helps to get it to it because your copy of the Malefic Dragon, you need to get to copy of Malefic World as quickly as possible, and Territory makes it even better. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Malefic Tune and a single copy of Skill Drain. Skill Drain is just a good card in this deck. You pay 1,000 life points to negate all monster effects. It hurts our opponent a lot more than us. And if you don't have your copy of your Malefic Territory, this is kind of works in place of it. So you're basically playing 4 copies of it in a way, but you don't get your field spell. And Malefic Tune is what I usually send to the graveyard off the copy of the new Malefic monster. But if a face-up Malefic monster you control is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, then you get to draw 2 cards. And if a face-up Malefic monsters you control is destroyed by battle while this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a Malefic monster from your deck to your hand. So it gives you a search as well. It's not the greatest, but you play it as a one-of just to be able to get into your deck and have kind of like that recovery in the graveyard. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we are playing 2 copies of Malefic Paradox Dragon. I just feel like you need 2. If you're playing Extravagance, you can play 3, but I'm not playing Extravagance because I'm playing Trade-In and Allure of Darkness. So I don't feel like you need the 3rd one. If you feel like you need the 3rd one, put it in. I don't feel like you do. But what this card does is, when this card is synchro summoned, you get to target, or you get to select a synchro monster on either player's graveyard and special summon it. And there can only be 1 face-up Malefic Paradox Dragon on the field. And if a Malefic World is not on the field, then you destroy this card. Really good because you use it with the new Malefic monster. That's about it. It's essentially a vanilla unless you're going up against a synchro-based deck. So, I mean, it's good and it's not all at once, because it's a big 4K beat stick that you can summon really easily now. And it's also not good because it's a big beefy 4K beat stick that you can't do anything else with except use it as link material. We then play 2 copies of Stardust Dragon. You just send the Stardust Dragon to the graveyard along with the Cyber End Dragons to combo off into your copies of Malefic Stardust and Malefic Cyber End. That's pretty much all they're here for. Then we play the Train Engine, which is a copy of Super Dreadnought Gustav Max, number 81, and a copy of Juggernaut Libby. You play these because you can burn your opponent for 2,000, make this card unaffected, or OTK your opponent with Juggernaut Libby. It depends on what you need, is what you summon out of this package. So you can either burn your opponent for 2,000 and then attack them, or overlay this on top of that. Or you can summon this and it's unaffected by everything and then immediately summon this, which is super nice. So you have a little bit of utility of which way you want to go. This is defensive, this is offensive, and then this is super offensive. This is probably one of my favorite XYZs in the entire game, though. So then we play a single copy of number 38 because it negates spell effects, which can negate like Cosmic Cyclones and stuff like that to protect your field spell even more. Dingirsu, again, this kind of protects your field spells and your stuff from being destroyed because you can detach a material from this instead of cards being destroyed. And when it's XYZ summoned, you get to send a card from your opponent controls to the graveyard, which is kind of nice. Also, it has the little sneaky effect that a lot of people don't realize, that you can attach one of your banished machine monsters to this card as a material, which Cyber End Dragon is a machine monster that you can attach to this, and you have to banish the card to summon out your copy of Cyber End Dragon. So it is banished, and you can attach it to Dingirsu, which is cool. And then people across the, locals is like, does that guy have a, Cyber End attached to a Dingirsu over there? It's like, yeah, that's me. What's up? We then have a Geomathmech Final Sigma. Geomathmech Final Sigma is really easy to go into in this deck because you can use your parallel gear to synchro summon with like a Malefic Paradox Dragon and summon this card really easily. It does a lot. It's unaffected by anything except Mathmech effects while it's in the extra monster zone. And it's a 3K beat stick. They can do a lot of damage, which is super nice. I play a single copy of Corrupted Nether Soul Dragon because I love this card and I just love finding ways to actually play this in stuff. And so you can actually summon this pretty easy. It can be destroyed by battle, but who's going to destroy this 4K monster by battle? And it also has the ability that when this card destroys destroys opponent's monster by battle and sends to the graveyard, you can activate the effect to make this card be able to attack another opponent's monster in a row. And then during your opponent's standby phase, or during your standby phase, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, and its attack becomes half its current attack, and if you do, you inflict the damage to your opponent equal to the attack it lost. This card is big, beefy, and it does burn damage. Why wouldn't you play this in this deck? We can play a single copy of Relinquished Anima. I summon this sometimes. It's just there in case I want to, gobble up a monster. And a single copy of Link Rebo. I don't do that much Link summoning in this deck as much as I used to with the new monster. Because basically I just end up summoning Paradox Dragon, Malefic Cyber End, or Stardust, and a copy of the new Malefic monster. And I put I think I put either 10k, 10 to 15k, or 10 to 12k damage on board easy. And then I go into number 81 during main phase 2 and it's unaffected by everything, and then I just OTK from there. Or Juggernaut Libby, or not Juggernaut Libby, but Gustav Max. And then I go in for another 2k and I OTK. You're gonna usually OTK. It's pretty much inevitable. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. It's a really, really fun deck to play around with. And if you guys want to see some test hands of this deck, they will be up pretty soon on the channel, so be on the lookout for those test hands. And anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can come our notification squad, and definitely tell me what you think of this video down in the comments down below, and check out that Patreon, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.